Nice, nice to meet you. I'm Laura Martis. I'm 39 years old, and 7 years ago, I contracted meningitis. The virus went into my brain and then into my inner ear. I didn't go to get care as soon as I should have. So while it was causing the trouble that it was causing, I wasn't getting the treatment. Um, by the time that I did go in, there was really nothing that they could do to help me other than understand the symptoms that were residual and trying to treat the symptoms.
What
So,
what were the symptoms that you were having or dealing with?
yeah, I had chronic migraine and chronic headache, which I now know are two different things, but the first 6 months was one migraine. And
Mm.
then I had my first no pain day with the help of medication after the first year. There were a couple other symptoms, including chronic fatigue and some mild cognitive impairment and balance issues. When the virus went into my inner ear, I lost sensory functioning on an organ in the inner ear, and it created some balance issues for me.
I am. That's tough. So, like, how did you notice your balance issues? Like, was it
There
just
was
walking?
Yeah, definitely walking. I started to do things that I had never done before. I mean, obviously, when you feel dizzy or off balance, that there is this common knowledge of what that feels like. But even when I wasn't noticing it because it was a little less intense, I noticed I would touch walls a lot. I couldn't quite figure out, like my depth perception was off. So
Mm,
when people were walking close to me, I couldn't quite feel comfortable because I didn't know where they actually were. And so in crowds, that was hard. Or in the grocery store, when you're making a turn with your cart into an aisle,
mm.
there's another person there. I can't figure out exactly where I need to be making that turn at or how I need to be making that turn.
That would definitely produce some anxiety for sure. I'd imagine.
Well, I think too, because with any brain injury, we all have different symptoms, and you don't know what's going to happen until it happens, or what your problems are going to be until it's a problem. And so you don't get this alert ahead of time so that you can prepare yourself. You just have to be very vocal with your physicians so that they can help you navigate it.
Very true. Yeah, like you have to be really on top of your game. It's kind of a challenge, but yeah, I would totally agree, and I understand that.
That advocation piece was really hard, I think, for a lot of people. Especially when you feel like you're in a new body and you don't exactly know what to share with your physicians, as strange as it sounds. And sometimes it takes you a month to be like, well, this is actually a problem, I think, and or something that didn't happen before. Should we address it? I don't even know what to call this problem, but here's what's happening.
Yeah, you're just expected to deal with it and or I don't know, and or figure out like your ways around it or how to utilize it potentially,
Right.
hopefully. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so I definitely agree with that, and it's pretty intimidating. It was really intimidating for me and myself, and you know, so yeah, I understand that. So how did people around you help you? Like, was it more family and or was it like more friends? Like, what were the
Yeah.
key parts?
That was that was really interesting to me. I'm a very extroverted person and make friends with everybody. I have had a lot of friends, but because every moment of every day, especially that first year, was all tied up in my health and going to doctors and figuring out what was wrong and how do I make it right. Um, I realized there were only two people that reached out on a regular basis,
Who were they?
my friends Anthony and Amanda. And
Some quality
e-
friends.
yeah, and yeah, I realized that there were so many people that weren't around with that same kind of love in their heart for me. And I started to see everybody a little differently. There were people that went for so long without talking to me, and I had no idea that that would be okay. and they didn't even know I was having health issues.
Oh yeah, yeah. That is a really. It's like you can kind of put yourself in like or like imagine their perspective. It's like it would be like intimidating myself to see myself go through the brain injury and or like I would assume for you to see yourself go through, knowing all your symptoms and all your difficulties. So that's very intimidating, I'm
Yeah.
sure. So it is it's like a really treacherous thing to like navigate through. And
As a friend and an individual going through it.
yeah.
There were two things that those people did, and I did have family. Family asked a lot of questions. I was married at the time. My son was maybe 14 years old, or a little bit younger maybe. And so they were really helpful, but my friends, they were in an awkward place. They didn't know how to help or what was going on or what to ask. But they asked two questions on a regular basis, and that was really all I need. They would always ask, "How are you feeling today?" And oftentimes it was the same answer. I've got this horrible headache. I'm not feeling balanced. But they listened to it over and over and over again. And I needed someone to ask me, even though I was saying the same thing. I
I
needed
love
them.
that.
The other thing that they did was they would say, if they were around me, okay, how can I help? Now, sometimes that's really hard for people in any circumstance, grieving, you want to say, how can I help you? And people don't know, or they just don't want to ask for help. But just knowing that they were interested and they'd say it over and over and over again, that part was really important to me.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's like a very critical thing I would say I would agree with. And so how has this really like how has this like restructured your life? Like the way you approach things, or like it could be socially or it could be projects. I mean, literally anything, just in life. How has that like reconstructed your reality?
It's, I feel like I'm gonna have the same answer that any person with a brain injury has, and it's everything changed. Everything's different. You go to bed one night and you wake up a different person. And yes, yes to all of those things. Everything's been reconstructed. I was very successful in my career in real estate, commercial, residential, on the corporate side of things, and I loved working. I haven't worked in 7 years since the injury, and because I'm still learning how to work, I'm still learning what I can and can't do, even 7 years later, by testing boundaries and even one thing that I never did before that's a regular occurrence now is when I'm walking out the door, and now I know people that don't have brain injuries, they'll say, "Oh, I do that too." And I'm like, "But I didn't before." Like this is
Yeah,
huge for me. I walk out the door and I have to out loud, and sometimes a lot of times over and over I have to say water, keys, phone, water, keys, phone until I have all three beside me, and then I can leave. And I mean, I don't even carry a purse anymore because that's too much in a purse that I can forget or move. So I have the most important things with my phone. I have one key, and then I have my water that I need everywhere I go. And so there was a time that I was losing credit cards all the time because I would just put them down beside my phone, and now I can't pick them up. So all those little processes had to change.
yeah, I can see that. And yeah, I understand that totally. You know that.
Yeah.
And it is a wild experience. But what were like some of the how did your like I don't know, key figures in your life really show up? Like I know you like your son's really helped and stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean that's amazing and clutch. But how did other people end up like even the people that you didn't ex wouldn't expect really show up in your life to be end up being like a very clutch person for your, right by your side, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. The My ex-husband and I are no longer together, but I I could go on and on and on about how much gratitude I have for him stepping up because it wasn't, we weren't married at the time that that happened. And I couldn't live by myself and take care of my son. Um, I moved in with him. He took on both of our mortgages because I wasn't working. He was helping me get to doctor's appointments. Sometimes I couldn't walk on my own and I'd need his help just to get in and out of the doctor's appointments. Um, Taking care of my son, who was a early teen, preteen ages, that's hard enough. So he went from being a single man who was just dating someone to being a caregiver, a single dad because I couldn't help him, paying for two mortgages, still working full time, and then managing all of our laundry and dishes. And I mean, he did everything. And
That's
it
big,
it's huge. I mean,
awesome of him.
it says a lot about him as a person and his ability to focus on task management and really just do what needs to be done. Um, yeah, and it showed me because I was such an independent person, it showed me how to rely on someone else because I did not want to do that.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
It's, it's like a new kind of challenge, I would imagine, especially.
Yeah.
You know, it's different person to person, and like you have more experience on like all sorts of different fronts, basically. You know, dealing with marriage, dealing with kids, dealing with, it's a whole different career perspective too. Like,
Whole different walk of life. I think though, even you understand asking for help in ways that you never had to ask for help for, and watching people really show up is paramount to our recovery.
so tell me, what else have you learned from this, really in its entirety?
One of the biggest lessons that I learned was how to uh, give myself grace and listen to my body. I was a single mom and very career driven. I had done the single mom thing for over, a decade and I loved it. I loved constantly being on the go. I was a baseball mom. I was a career woman. I was doing all the things at the house all by myself. I loved it. Um, and I was nicknamed the Energizer Bunny by my friends. So
That's
when this
funny.
happened, when this happened and I'm just in bed most of the time, almost every day, there was the mental health side of things that I had to work through, and I had to learn to give myself some grace that it's okay when my body isn't able to do something, and that I need to listen to my body when it says it can't do something, because otherwise I pay the consequence for it later.
Yeah. Um, how would you say you I guess just like your perspective and stuff with everything you had to deal with and everything. How has that like further translated into the other areas and other aspects of your life?
How have my lessons learned translated into other areas of my life?
Essentially, yeah.
Before, because I was such a hard worker and so driven, while I had empathy for people when they were struggling emotionally, I didn't have empathy for people when they were struggling physically. I was raised by a Marine and a nurse, the
Mm.
type of nurse that still sends you to school when you're sick. So for me, I was like, you just suck it up and move on. Whatever the problem is, you suck it up and you move on. And to some degree, that's great. And it still works in some areas of life. But I think there's a huge piece of being respectful to your body. And there are people with limitations. If you don't have a leg, you can't hop on that leg. It's not going to happen. So there was a huge turnaround for me socially in being understanding and empathetic of other people when they're struggling with something physically, especially when you can't see it, because what we're going through, you often can't see.
Love that. Yeah. So what are your core strategies for like healing and just coping with this new reality that you've been presented?
still have at least at least once a quarter, once every few months, I have a day where I'm overwhelmed emotionally with what this life looks like as opposed to before the brain injury. And as a coping strategy, I accept that day and embrace that day. I let myself fall apart for that day, and then I move forward whenever I wake up the next morning. I think that in itself is therapeutic to just say, you know what, sometimes it sucks. And it's okay to just say, sometimes it sucks. I'll move on tomorrow. Like, today, I'm just going to sit in the suck and embrace it, live it. Tomorrow, I'm going to step forward again.
I
So
love
that's
that.
been a huge component for me and coping.
Yeah, just yeah, I love that. And that, I mean, it shows your toughness, your resilience that you like, you've ended up finding out you had like all this resilience through your accident. It was kind of like a little messenger. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you're gonna be a bad artist now.
Yeah, and you know what? You're also right in the fact that being graceful with yourself is a strength. Socially, we're taught that the strongest are the ones that suck it up and move on. But I think there's also that component of we have emotions and we have thoughts that aren't always positive, and that's okay. As long as you don't stay stuck in that space, embrace it, let those feelings come and go like waves. And I think that that's a new level of strength that I didn't quite identify with before that I do now.
I love that. It's definitely one of the most interesting parts of the TBI world. It's like you're the same person, but you're presented basically a new you.
Yes.
It's completely, yeah, completely translates in
Yes.
pretty wonky ways.
And without being someone who's gone through that, it's hard to comprehend what that means. But I look and sound like the same person. I'm a totally different person in so
Yeah.
many aspects.
So how often do you look back at like old photos of pre-accident
Mhm.
and or do you sympathize and obviously you can empathize with yourself and be like kind of pridefully for that, like be like, yeah, I went through that, it's pretty bad artist, dude, and stuff like that. Like, was there how often do you like to like kind of look through like some old quality photos like that that will show you that
Before the brain injury or at the beginning?
at well through at any point of the brain after the brain injury?
Mm. I had lists of things that I accomplished in PT, OT, speech language. Um, the pictures for me, because I have an acquired brain injury as opposed to a traumatic brain injury, there weren't a lot of physical features that were changed or things that you could see in a picture. But I do have photos of accomplishing new tasks. So when I was walking correctly again, when I could reach the second shelf in the cabinet again, um, but that list of tasks that I had accomplished is also something, and even more so, something that I lean on. And every once in a while, I just want to look back and be like, wow, it really, I couldn't reach the second shelf. I couldn't bend down to touch my toes. I
Yeah,
I couldn't walk with my shoulders down or my back straight. I couldn't, that's, it really makes you, and I know you understand this because you are wholeheartedly this person, but it makes you so grateful for not just the progress, but for the hope of future progress too.
yeah. uh, of course, like you just said, I totally agree, and I think it is a really cool thing to just anticipate the success of your healing, and you're like, you don't know specifically how or what it is, but you know that you are healing and you are learning, you are ever learning after the brain injury in this new same body.
Yeah.
So what exactly is next for you?
I've prioritized in the beginning, I prioritized comfort because, a year of pain that was rough. But um, then I focused on mental health because there was such a transition and I really needed to get back to a mentally healthy place. And then I really dove in on physical capabilities and independence. Right now, I'm in a place of very peaceful balance of all of them. So
That's key.
yeah, still trying to, maintain and feed the healthy mental side of things. Um, it's not that I struggle like I used to, but still maintaining that health is important and not letting go of the focus on it so I don't slip up and miss something. Um,
So, what has been like, what have you learned throughout this journey? Like what you're saying, what have you learned? Like, what has stood out to you as like, oh, I didn't know this would benefit me in this way or this significantly.
uh,
Like it could be just like a little thing.
I I didn't when before the brain injury, when people say, "Oh, I'm just relaxing and I'm loving it," it's like that sounds awful. I don't understand why anyone would enjoy just sitting still. Um, my doctors in the beginning, they would tell me, "You have to learn how to pace yourself. You have to learn how to pace yourself." And I was like, "That's dumb. I'm not doing that. I've got so many things that I need to accomplish." So no, that was a
Would
lesson.
you say being a mom set you in that direction a little bit?
Yeah, a single mom. In the
Oh
beginning,
yeah,
I had my son. It was two jobs. I was going to school full time and I was raising my son. So I knew how to work
that's
and I enjoyed that.
yeah,
Sitting
that's
down was not fun.
commendable.
Thank you.
Mm,
But yeah, so my doctors eventually taught me how to pace myself, how to sit down sometimes, how to do nothing, and be graceful with myself about doing nothing. That was the
yeah,
biggest.
I love that. And it's like seriously, that is one of the most value. Like I see that as one of the most valuable strengths you can have as a human nowadays is
Probably
to
right.
just be like, happy with where you are at and know that like you are making progress, even if it's through like the cyclical things, like work and stuff or other circumstances and stuff. Like might not be work and stuff, but it's the same kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I agree with all that. So yeah, I would like to ask how has this how have group chats and I mean not group chats but like support groups helped you?
This was, I didn't have heard of support groups. I had led support groups before. I'd never felt or thought that I needed a support group.
What for?
So I was a substance abuse counselor for adolescent addicts
Mm.
many years ago. So addiction support groups and therapy groups. I've children's trauma groups, but I didn't I didn't know that I was missing that piece until someone had mentioned it to me. And I remember talking to a brain injury organization and I was like, I need something else. I've got the PT, I've got the OT, I've got my doctors, I've got all the things, but something's missing. And someone had mentioned a support group, and I thought, that might be the piece. And I joined a brain injury support group, and it was everything that I needed. It was that last piece of the puzzle of being able to communicate what I was experiencing with someone who got it. And I even when I say that, I don't understand why that's so important, but it's so important to not feel alone in that journey and to be able to say, oh yeah, we're all experiencing this. We all experience a lot of similar things. So much peace has come from that support group, and I've been in it for years now, and I will not stop going.
Yeah. So before we wrap it up too, because I have appreciated the knowledge you've shared with us and everything. I'm very grateful for that. So thank you,
Thanks,
Laura.
Thanks, Holden.
But would there be any like what would be your best you like a top of mind final message for all of our the beautiful viewers?
Mm. Assuming that they either have a loved one or they themselves have a brain injury, I would say that there's everyone's living a new life, whether you have the brain injury or not. And it's so important to trust that the person with the injury knows what's going on in their body, even if you don't see it. Listen to them, ask them more questions. Don't avoid the topic, whether it's your injury or your loved one's injury. Talk about it. Get all of the feelings and thoughts out so you guys can share it together and understand what the new norm is going to look like. Um, it's a huge change, and I think that it continues to change over the years. So those conversations should never stop. It should always be open and everyone should be curious.
I would agree. Would you say that because the way I feel like it really like having support groups and everything so big because it takes like some significant weight off of your shoulder because like a brain injury like that is unqu unquantifiable amount of weight on your shoulders because everything, literally everything is adjusted completely.
Mhm.
So, what would you say is like the biggest piece of that?
About the use of the support groups.
Yeah.
Something that I didn't get a chance to mention whenever we were talking about support groups is how important they are for caregivers too.
Oh yeah.
Caregivers, my ex-husband had never entered one, but he did get a friend or two that was in a somewhat similar situation. But I think that it's so important for our caregivers to have it too. We go through our own stress and struggles, and they have completely different stresses and struggles that we, as the brain injured people, cannot understand what the caregiver is going through. And I think that's a really important piece that's often missed.
Yeah, I would agree. So, thank you for that. And I really appreciated having you on. And w- we will likely have like another conversation on here, you know?
I would love to do that, Holden. You
Yeah,
you
thank
have
you.
you have such a great energy and are going to bring so much to the world through this podcast. It's a really wonderful opportunity to be a part, even a small part of it.
Thank you so much, Laura.
You're welcome, Holden. Thank you.